My husband's death shattered my world, and the bills started piling up faster than I could think. I begged the insurance company for help, but they sent back legal threats instead of compassion. I filed a lawsuit, clutching the suicide note like it was our last piece of hope. Officer Julian Turner had found him. His kindness that night still echoed. But then Victoria Hawkins entered the courtroom, cold eyes, impeccable posture, that note our proof of love, now her weapon. I braced myself for a war I wasn't trained for. Victoria's voice dripped with legal confidence as she dissected the suicide note in front of the judge. Intentional act, she declared, implying my husband had planned to void his own insurance. I couldn't breathe. Julian shifted in his seat, his badge seeming heavier by the second. I remembered how he had gently handed me the folded note, his eyes avoiding mine. That wasn't a crime scene. It was a goodbye soaked in love, but here it was evidence, twisted into something grotesque and convenient. The insurance lawyer called their expert witness, a forensic psychologist, who coldly stated that the note suggested premeditated intent. My stomach dropped. This wasn't just about policy anymore, it was character assassination. I turned to Julian during recess, whispering, "You know what he meant." He hesitated. "I'm not allowed to interpret," he replied, eyes lowered. My heart cracked again. I needed more than silence. I needed someone brave enough to stand up. Victoria introduced emails, private messages I had sent to my husband during his depression. "Look at her tone," she said, coldly analytical. I sat frozen as my grief was read aloud like evidence of guilt. The judge barely blinked. My lawyer objected, too late. Julian watched me from the bench. I thought he might speak. He didn't. I felt more alone in that courtroom than I had at the funeral. In a flashback, I remembered finding the note tucked beneath his pillow, next to a photo of our wedding. "Tell them I loved you," it said. I sobbed quietly in court, the memory slamming into me. Julian had taken that photo into evidence. Now it was missing. I whispered to my lawyer, "It proves love, not escape." But Victoria moved fast, shifting the trial's focus back to money and motive. The twist hit like ice. Julian, under oath, admitted he'd flagged the note as ambiguous in his initial report, before we even spoke. My trust collapsed. "Why didn't you tell me?" I mouthed. He looked away. Victoria's smirk was subtle but lethal. That moment, the courtroom turned against me. Love was no longer evidence. It was liability. I had walked into court with truth, but they only saw technicalities and tactics. We lost the case. I walked out of court with nothing but my husband's old jacket, and a silence too heavy to carry. Julian didn't approach me. Victoria's eyes met mine once briefly, and in them I saw no joy, just exhaustion. The note had meant love. Now it meant loss. Some truths don't survive legal translation. Weeks later, I found the wedding photo in my mailbox. No return address, just folded gently. Julian's silence had broken, not in words but in courage. I framed it on our motel nightstand. We had nothing left, but we had memory, and I had survived their storm. Love didn't win in court, but it hadn't died either.